Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to a new Stranger vlog. It seems I'm cranking these out a little more often than I like to. What I wanted to talk about today is this Kim Davis character. Well, I had a couple things I wanted to talk about, but it's smaller pieces of a bigger puzzle. We have this Kim Davis character, Donald Trump, and people who still support the Confederate flag. Now, it was very interesting to watch the video of Kim Davis. Now, when I'm filming this, and sorry about the shaky camera, when she got out, I'm recording this probably 2-3 days after she got out, there was a big rally. You see a bunch of people in the South carrying crosses, holding this woman to some sort of, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Holding her to some sort of like she's a martyr. She's a person that suffered. And presidential candidate Mike Huckabee standing there saying, you know, oh, I would go to jail in her place. You're full of shit. You're not. You're saying that to appeal to this demographic. Mike Huckabee, you wouldn't last a fucking day in jail. You look like a very, very soft man. And when you see the group of people that were out in support of Kim Davis, it means that, you know, hate is still pretty much alive. You know, when there's all these people, you know, whatever, I thought these people were supposed to be Christians. Now, I was raised Catholic, and for the lack of a better term, I was raised, you know, kind of the dogma would be, yes, homosexuality is wrong, or at the very least, if you are homosexual, you're not supposed to act on it. And like I said, this is what I was raised on, not what I personally believe. But whatever happened to love thy neighbor? Whatever happened to, you know, I don't know, you're supposed to love everybody, you know. Granting a marriage license, it's not like, you know, you're not giving into somebody's lifestyle. You're not, you know, do your fucking job. You know, I've seen some pretty funny memes online about, like, there's a picture of Han Solo where it said, you know, he didn't believe in the Force, but he still did his job. You know, I saw one with Fabio holding I can't believe it's not butter. And it says, you know, didn't believe it's not butter, still did his job. Do your fucking job. But to see the support, now I don't know what the rules are when it comes to being a county clerk, because she's a county clerk. If it takes, like, let's just say hypothetically, you can impeach somebody. Can you impeach somebody that, if, I think she's probably getting too much local support that I don't think people would vote to impeach her, since she doesn't want to do her job. Hate is still alive, people. Hate under the guise of religious freedom is still very much alive. And that kind of helps me go over to Donald Trump. And once again, this is kind of recent, but it's that video where you had the reporter from Univision interrupt Donald Trump's press conference. And I do use the word interrupt because that's what he did. He did interrupt. He didn't wait his turn. That being said, he was never going to get a turn. You know, Donald Trump, when you're hosting a press conference like that, you sort of dictate who's going to talk. And of course, Donald Trump isn't going to purposefully call on somebody that's going to challenge him with questions that, you know, because Donald Trump has said some very, very crude statements about people from Mexico. And talking about immigration. And once again, that panders to the middle of America. That panders to people who, to use the South Park quote, they took our jobs. Once again, these are the same people. Love thy neighbor. What happens if your neighbor's from another country? Or like Kim Davis, what happens if your neighbor is a person who just happens to like the same sex? Neighbor is a relative term. We're not talking about the same people who live in your neighborhood. That's just a term. Love your fellow human beings. And sorry about the camera, people. So it brings me back, and then that brings me to the middle of America, or the South, for the lack of a better term. People who still support the Confederate flag. This was a pretty big deal. Now, of course, they got the flag down, but there are people who still support it. There are still people who live in some sort of, backwards world. They're isolated. And I understand where I come from. I was raised in New York City. Even though the color of my skin, I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm, for the lack of a better term, a minority. Why? There is still hate out there because there's still ignorance. And it's strong. It's very, very strong. For as much progress as we think we're making, there isn't. It's all come down to, people want to feel special. And people want to think that theirs is the only way to be. And you can't. This is America. America. This is America. It's the melting pot. You have to let other people live their lives. You may have been lucky enough where your grandparents came to this country, or your great-grandparents, or whatever, your family came here a lot longer than people coming today. And you're established. And you're lucky. You're very lucky that you and your family have gotten established. Now you have to give the next generation of people an opportunity to do that. If you block that, you're just as bad as if you heard a story about someone trying to block your grandparents. So I guess my whole bigger idea is that hate is still alive. It's still very, very much alive. It's still very, very real, and it's still affecting our lives every day. So I may be preaching to the choir, because I don't know if conservative people are going to watch a video like this, but you really do have to open your eyes, and you have to open your heart. If you truly, truly believe in the teachings and of God, or whatever the case may be, you're supposed to love your neighbor, whether they're gay. You're supposed to love your neighbor whether or not they come from, the south of the border. You're supposed to love your neighbor and not, romanticize a time back when they were slaves. So this is Chris Colon of Two Strangers One Podcast saying, don't be a stranger.